Greetings, welcome back to the Casual Wargamer, and in this video I catch up at present with the previews from the community website. This one looking at the non-codex compliant chapters of the Space Marines. So reading through this, it looks like they use the basic Space Marine Codex rules as you would expect, but then they have their own special gubbins. And we're going to take a look at these. The first one is the Dark Angels. And they have an Unforgiven Task Force detachment, which basically means if their unit is battle shocked, their objective control becomes 1, not 0. That's very, very nice. It's going to really help them in certain games, I think, especially against certain foes. We've spoken previously about the likes of demons and tyrannids, specifically forcing battle shock tests so you can't control objectives. This is going to help keep you to a small extent from being affected by that. You can be a bit more resistant. And we get two previews for these. The Deathwing Command Squad. Now, there's a lot to go through here, so I'm probably not going to do this as in-depth as I would have done with others, but I'm going to take a look. The Deathwing Command Squad is basically a Terminator squad. You have an Ancient, an Apothecary, a Champion, and up to 7 basic Terminators. Interestingly, on this one, we have some sort of look at how some of these work. For example, we haven't seen anything like an Apothecary to see anything like that. In this instance, if you have an Apothecary, they have a Narthecium. So in your command phase, you can return a destroyed model, not a character, back to the unit. So it certainly looks like in 10th, the idea of preventing wounds has gone away. Now, Apothecaries look like they're just going to bring a guy back. Okay. I'm not going to grumble too much on things like that because it felt like Apothecaries weren't great anyway, preventing wounds on 6s. But just being automatically able to bring a guy back, that's nice. Astartes Banner, add 1 to the objective control of all models in the unit. Honor or Death, where you have company champion, you get to add 1 to advance and charge rolls, and you can target them for heroic intervention for 0 CP. So we're seeing how characters sort of work in some of these squads. Hopefully the same sort of thing will apply to generic Space Marines as well, depending whether they get things like command squads. Though they haven't had that for a while. Okay, the weapons on these guys. So the stat-wise, I should say, they are 5 movement, which is Terminators, toughness 5, 2 up save, 4 up invulnerable, 3 wounds, 6 leadership, 1 OC. Yeah. The weapons are fairly, well, what you would expect. Assault cannons, cyclone missile launchers, plasma cannons, heavy flamers, storm bolters. Nothing that you haven't seen before, so I'm not going to go fully into these. Nice options, but you can certainly see that the power level of armor penetration has been dropped, like they said. Only the supercharged plasma cannon has an AP of -3. Everything else is 2, 1, or 0 in the likes of Frag and the assault cannon. With the melee weapons, they have a variety of things. All AP -2, and the damage is either 1 or 2. Interestingly, they have a Halberd of Caliban, which is precision. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, 6 strength 6, AP -2, 2 damage. So you've got, presumably this is on 1 model in the unit. Presumably they can swing this ahead of everybody else and chop into the character leading the squad or some such. Quite interesting. I don't recall them having anything like that before, but I could be wrong. The other interesting one here is a war gear option with Storm Shield, which doesn't give you an invulnerable save thing anymore. It's just you have that model has a wounds of 4 instead of 3. I suppose it's kind of pointless giving you something when you've already got a 4-up invulnerable save. So that's a little bit different. But the important one here, our second Dark Angel preview, is Lionel Johnson himself, the Primarch of the Dark Angels. And he has got good. So let's take a look. 8 movement, 9 toughness, 2 up save, 3 up invulnerable save, 10 wounds, 5 leadership, and 4 OC. He's going to be tough to take down. Weapon-wise, ranged, you're probably not going to worry that much. He has the Armor Luminous, which can be fired as either a bolt pistol or a plasma pistol. Why you'd fire it as the bolt pistol, I don't know. As a bolt pistol, it's strength 12, 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 4, AP -1, 2 damage. As a plasma pistol, it's still 12-inch range, 2 shots, hitting on 2, strength 8, -3, 2 damage. Unless, I suppose, you've got, again, small squads of lightly armed infantry, why would you not just use the plasma pistol? But there you go. But it's in melee where he shines with Fealty. Fealty has a strike and sweep, as you would expect. As a strike, it gives lethal hits. As a sweep, it's sustained hits. So let's take a look at this. When you strike, you're getting 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 12, AP -4, 4 damage. He's basically clearing his way through whatever's in front of him. As a sweep, it's 16 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 6, -3, 2 damage. So whatever you do, you are pretty much mowing through whatever you are standing in front of. It's going down. He's going to be nasty in combat. He has Deep Strike, representing his weird new lore of appearing through warp trees, foresty things, I guess. And he has Fights First with all those attacks. Okay, special rules. Primarch of the First Legion. So he has a choose one of 3 command abilities in your command phase. And let's take a look at those. All secrets revealed. Once per turn, when your opponent targets a unit from their army with a stratagem, but before that stratagem's effects are resolved, if the unit is within 12 inches of Lionel Johnson, you gain a CP, and that enemy unit must make a battle shock test. If failed, the stratagem doesn't take effect, but counts as having been used. Okay, that's nice, but you've got to kind of pretty much know that your opponent's going to try and do something like that to use it. Not so sure on that myself, but once we see it in play, maybe things will be a bit more obvious. Martial Exemplar. While a friendly starts units within 6 inches of the lion, each time modelling that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Absolutely lovely. And no hiding from the Watchers. While a friendly Astartes unit is in 6 inches of this model, models in that unit have Feel No Pain 4+ against mortal wounds. Not sure what that's got to do with not hiding from Watchers, but hey ho. How prevalent mortal wounds are going to be? Yeah, maybe. I can basically see you going Martial Exemplar every round, pretty much. Unless something weird happens in game. You're basically just going to go here, everybody get +1 to hit in melee. Lovely jubbly. But that's not a bad thing. Then you get the Emperor's Shield, which wasn't amazing under 9th, but here, each time an attack targets this model, you subtract 1 from the wound roll. In addition, each time a melee attack is allocated to this model or an unmodified saving throw of 6, the attacking unit takes a mortal wound after it's finished making its attacks. Okay, you've got a 3-up invulnerable save, and you're reducing damage, and you're potentially knocking mortal wounds back again. Nice. And then the Dark Angel's Bodyguard, if he's in 3 inches of 1 or more friendly start his infantry units, he's got lone operative. I think it's a bit of an improvement, and I say that lightly, over his 9th edition variant. Absolutely love him. It's going to be nice to see him on the table, and hopefully my regular Dark Angels opponent will bring him at some point, which will be awesome sauce. The next preview is Space Wolves. Now, Space Wolves, theirs is the Champions of Rust detachment, which gives you deeds worthy of Saga. And with this, I've got to be honest, I can see why some Space Wolf players are a little bit unhappy with this. I don't think it's amazing. I think it's got flaws. I could be wrong, but let's take a look. So basically, at the end of the battle rounds, you don't pick this beforehand, you pick it at the end, and you select one of the sagas, and if you completed it that battle round, your army gains the associated benefit for the rest of the battle. Okay, so you know what you've done, and then you create a saga for it. Okay. Saga of the Warrior Born. By the way, you can only do each saga once. Completed if one of your characters destroys one or more enemy character models during the battleground. Okay, if you complete that, all melee weapons by Astartes models in your army get sustained hits 1. Saga of Majesty. Completed if you controlled one or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone at the end of either player's turn during the battle round, and one or more of your characters were in range of that objective marker, then the OC of all your models in the army increases by 1. Okay. Saga of the Bear. Completed if one of your characters was reduced to below half their starting wounds during the battle but was not destroyed at the end of the battle round, then every model in your army gets Feel No Pain 6+. And Saga of the Beast Lord. Completed if one of your characters destroyed one or more enemy monster or vehicles during the battle round, then every melee weapon in your army gets lethal hits. Okay. At first glance, it looks nice. You know what you're going towards, you know what you're going to try and achieve, and if you do achieve it, you go, well, I've done this, blah, in that battle round. The problem is we've seen a lot of precision attacks on previews leading up to 10th, and every single one of these has to be completed by a character. If someone starts blasting your characters off the table, and we don't know how many you'll be able to take because we haven't seen what the detachments look like, you could end up coming away with nothing. And it also means that, although it's kind of thematic, I suppose, that your character is doing everything, it kind of, or characters maybe, it kind of feels that the rest of the army is just as a backup to them doing the saga, which is thematic, but it's not great mechanically. It would be nice if this was something more than just characters. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen something a little bit different from this. And I know that Space Wolf players have got some other grumbles with it, but yeah. This is going to be a long enough video as is. The preview for the Space Wolves are the Hounds of Morkai, which are their kind of anti-Psyker Reaver type Phobos units. Basic stat line, so I won't worry too much about that. They have a Morkai bolt pistol, Morkai combat knife. The bolt pistol is anti-Psyker 4, devastating wounds, precision, 12-inch range, just one shot, hits on 3, strength 4, AP -1, 1 damage. Yeah. The combat knife is anti-Psyker 4, devastating wounds, precision, 4 attacks, hitting on 3, strength 4, no AP, 1 damage. They're a bit lackluster. Not, it's great if you know you're going up against a psychic army, but if you're not, these guys aren't great. The special rule for them, they get a 6+ invulnerable save, improved to 4 up against psychic attacks. But basically, they have a Morkai's Howl. In your shooting phase, you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches of them, 18 if they're led by a lieutenant in Reaver armor, and that unit must make a battle shock test, subtracting 1 if a Psyker. If it's failed, in addition to being battle shock, the unit is stunned until their next shooting phase, and while stunned, if they attempt to make a psychic attack, they subtract 1 from the hit roll. A little specialised and not quite good. And they got the 6-inch scout special rule, before I forget. A little disappointed by that preview, to be honest. They certainly have a use. I would like to have seen something a bit more Space Wolfy, though. Blood Angels have a Sons of Sanguinius detachment, which gives them the Red Thirst. Each time the starting unit from your army is selected to fight, if it made a charge move this turn, to the end of the phase, it gets +1 strength for attacks with melee weapons. Okay, that's the new Red Thirst. If that's going to be their detachment rule, what are their other detachment rules going to get? Because presumably there's a Death Company one, and presumably, in the Codex when it comes out, and presumably, but I suppose this does as a basic, as a Red Thirst. And we get 2 previews for this one. We get the Death Company Intercessors, which are basically intercessors. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. They have the 6-up Feel No Pain. They have Black Rage, which means that each time they make an attack, you can re-roll the hit roll. While they're not within 12 inches of one or more friendly chaplains, they cannot fall back and they go to 0 OC. They have Visions of Heresy, which means once per turn, you can target the unit with a Fire Overwatch stratagem or Heroic Intervention for nothing. Okay, yeah. Weapon-wise, they are basic. There's nothing that stands out. They are basic gear. One thing that struck me as being interesting, and I might be remembering this wrong, but I don't think I am. In the weapons preview from a good few weeks ago, it showed bolt rifles as being heavy and assault. So you could stand still and hit for 2s, or you could move and fight them. The bolt rifle listed on the Death Company Intercessors doesn't have those keywords. Whether that's just an omission by accident or what, I'm not sure. Not really sure what to make of these guys. I kind of expect Death Company to be better, but then I suppose Death Company Assault Intercessors will be the ones that are really going to be impressive. Just kind of feel with this, they get the Feel No Pain and whatnot, but I'd probably rather go with basic troops because these are not battle line either. They are in addition. But we shall see. It will take seeing what the Blood Angels get in the rest of their units. But I wasn't impressed by this overly. What I am impressed by is Gabriel Seth, Chapter Master of the Flesh Tearers chapter. It's interesting on this that it actually has a rule that says this model is from the Flesh Tearers chapter, a successor of the Blood Angels. For all rules purposes, it is treated as a Blood Angels model, but cannot be included in an army that includes any other Blood Angels epic hero models. So we have at last a rule that basically says if you have a specific chapter sort of thing, you're only going with that. For example, Guilliman says he's Ultramarines, the Lion says he's Dark Angels. And people have been saying, but he still says Adeptus Astartes, so can he be taken in basic Adeptus Astartes? I think this is going a little way to showing that no, you can't. I know it's not quite the same, but it looks like you're still bracketing characters off into their specific chapters. Anyway, getting on to his main thing. At first glance, he doesn't look particularly great. He is a movement 6, toughness 4, 3-up save with a 4-up invulnerable, 6 wounds, 6 leadership, 1 OC. Basic bolt pistol, naff. But then he has the Blood Reaver, which is his giant, massive chainsword, which has devastating hits. Sustained hits 1. Let me get this right. 6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 8, AP -2, 3 damage. I would have expected better, but let's look at his abilities. First is Lord of Slaughter. While he's leading a unit, that unit can declare a charge even if they advanced. Nice. And then Whirlwind of Gore. Each time this model fights until the fight is resolved, add 1 to the attack characteristics of Blood Reaver for every 5 enemy models within 6 inches of him. Oh, yes. Run him into those bad boys. And suddenly, his attacks go up and he's basically decimating his way through whatever he hits. I quite like him. Initially, you look at Blood Reaver and you kind of go, it's all right. But when you see that and knowing that you're going to be running into gaunts, demons, and if you can time it right and you are ending up surrounded by lots of things within 6 inches, you're getting a good few attacks out of it. Very nice. I do remember him being a lot better in previous editions, but not going to complain. Then we get Black Templars. And Black Templars pick their vows. They have a Righteous Crusaders detachment, and at the start of the battle rounds, you choose one of the 4 vows, and that is in effect for the battle. You can have Suffer Not the Clean to Live, so your melee weapons get lethal hits. Uphold the Honour of the Emperor, so you have Feel No Pain 6 and a leadership of 5. Abhor the Witch, Destroy the Witch. You get 4-up invulnerable saves against psychic attacks, and melee weapons equipped by models have anti-psych of 4. And accept any challenge no matter the odds, your melee weapons get sustained hits 1. This is really nice because you've got 4 options there, and one of them is going to be relevant to somewhat in your army, to whatever you're facing. I likes it. And we get one preview for this. The Primaris Sword Brethren, they are basic. Nothing overly special. Combi weapon, heavy bolt pistol, plasma pistol. They have a Pyre pistol, which seems utterly pointless to me. Ignores cover and torrent. It's 12-inch range, D6 shots. It's only strength 4, no AP, 1 damage. Unless you're planning to use it in combat so that you're auto-hitting and just trying to get through those saves, doesn't strike me as being very, very, very good. In the melee weapon section, they have the Astartes Chainsword, Mastercrafted Power Sword, Power Weapon, and Thunderhammer. Nothing you haven't seen before. And they have, in their abilities, Valsworn Bladesman. At the start of the fight phase, you select one of the following 2 to apply until the end of the phase. You can either get +1 to attack with your melee weapons, or +1 damage to those melee weapons. Now that changes things a little bit. Need to mow your way through things, go for the attacks. Got something big and grimly to deal with, take the damage. You're going to end up with Thunderhammer with Devastating Wounds, 3 damage. Even the Mastercrafted Power Weapon, 3 damage. Power Swords, Chainswords, 2 damage. Sword Brethren, good. Still just as good. And lastly, we have Deathwatch. Okay, so Deathwatch are not really a Space Marine chapter. They are the militant arm of the Order of Xenos. They go out, they hunt aliens and protect the Imperium secretly off on the fringes of the galaxy, sort of thing. They don't have a standard detachment type thing like normal Space Marines do, where they go to companies and whatnot. Instead, basically, they build squads together, taking whatever gear they want, ignoring things like the Codex Astartes recommendations. I've only played a few games against them towards the end of 9th, and they've mullered me every single time. I think they are rather strong. I think a lot of it is based on one of their secondaries. But I do think they've been screwed over a little bit by GW. Recent updates and stuff have kind of really hurt them a little bit. And I'm not overly... impressed, let's just go with that, with this detachment. Okay, so they have a Black Spear Task Force detachment. So at the start of your command phase, you can select one of these, and it's in effect until the following command phase, but you can only pick each one once. So you have a Furor Tactics, which means that all your weapons are sustained hits 1. You have the Malleus Tactics, which means all your weapons are lethal hits, and the Pagatus Tactics, which means all of your each time the starting unit from your army makes an attack, if a critical hit is scored, it has precision. So you've got Furor for dealing with hordes, Malleus for dealing with monsters and vehicles, and Pagatus for trying to take down characters. Unlike, say, Grey Knights, where I really felt that they had no anti-demon, anti-chaos element, this actually does feel like they are good at dealing with the likes of aliens. That they can deal with anything. They can deal with your Tyranid hordes. They can deal with your Tyranid monsters. They can deal with your Eldari characters and the like. It kind of feels, while it doesn't specifically say Xenos, it has the right feel for what the army does. And we get one preview of this, which is Deathwatch Veterans, who are a battle line unit. They are a little odd, but that's what I would expect from Deathwatch. So they have basic stats as you'd expect. I won't go into that. Bolt gun, frag cannon, Infernus heavy bolter, which can be fired as a heavy bolter or as a heavy flamer. So I'm assuming is representing the old, not Dragon Breath, Kraken round or something like that. Long vigil ranged weapon, whatever that's meant to be, which is anti-infantry 4+, devastating wounds, rapid fire 1, and missile launchers. Nothing with high AP, damage is okay, And then you've got your basic melee weapons, close combat weapon, Deathwatch Thunderhammer, which is devastating wounds, strength 10, AP minus 2, 3 damage. A long vigil melee weapon, which is nothing special, and the Xenoface Blade, which is now devastating wounds, 4 attacks, hitting on 3, strength 5, AP minus 2, 1 damage. I have to agree with my friend that plays Deathwatch that they do seem to have been a bit toned down slightly too much from what they were. But I suppose that is the nature of 10th. Special rules, they have Death to the Alien. Anti-alien. Each time one of this unit makes an attack, you re-roll the hit roll of 1, so they're a bit more accurate. And if they target an attack roll that does not have Imperium or Chaos, so you're looking at all your Xenosy stuff, you get to re-roll the hit roll instead. Perfect. And the War Gear option, if you have an Astartes shield, you get a 4-up invulnerable save. Yeah, I suppose it's basic battle line option. And I like the detachment rules. That's the... I know this is a long video, but that is... And it's me just waffling numbers and words at you. I appreciate it if you sat through this long. Okay, so basically, Dark Angels I like the look of. Space Wolves, I have to agree, I'm a little disappointed. It might work. I don't think it will do very well. Blood Angels seem okay. No complaints there. Deathwatch seems to be thematic, but we will have to see how they play. And Black Templars, very, very nice. What are your thoughts? I like what I see in general, but I kind of am concerned that once again the specific Space Marine chapters are going to end up being so much better than the default generic Space Marines, and I think that's a bad play. It's always been a bad play, and I think it's still going to be a bad play if that's the case. Anyway, what do you think? Give me a thumbs up, put your comments down below, and hit the subscribe button. According to this, as of today, we should get a preview for Titans. Interesting. So that will probably go up later tonight once I've had a chance to read it. Anyway, thank you for watching and putting up with such a lengthy video. Take care, guys, and good gaming.